All right, we'll get rolling. One of the things I was going to discuss with you today, met with Coach McCarthy this morning. We were talking about, a lot of the players, and I told him I'm proud of the group they're becoming. It's a big group, and I let him know that so far we've played 30 players, in 4 games, and so 13 defensive linemen, 6 linebackers, and 11 DBs. You may ask, well, Dan, why is that a big deal? I think it's a really big deal because it takes a lot of trust. It takes player-to-player trust. One of the sayings we use, you do your job so I can do mine. So it has to have that trust, teammate to teammate. And it also takes a lot of trust, from the coaches. I think the assistant's done a good job of getting that many, players up and ready. And I would hope, certainly the players, certainly feel how much we believe in them. And there's a lot to gain when you play this many players this early. And can't think back of a time this early in a season when we've played this many players this early, and I'm absolutely thrilled about that because there's more to come. We haven't seen Gallimore in the regular season. We haven't seen Hill. We haven't seen Joseph, and so those ones are coming too. And so adding that kind of experience on the job, especially for some of the younger players, that's a big deal. And so I let the guys know that today when we spoke, and they're starting to become connected to an extension of one another, doing your job so the next guy can do his. We got plenty of stuff to work on, don't get me wrong. I'm completely pissed about the red zone. Still too many big plays for my liking, but I like the energy and the attitude and the style that the group's playing with. We took a tick up in communications, which was, as you heard me talk last week, one of the things I was emphasizing hard. And it'd be great to get some guys back in this week, hopefully. So with that said, I'll open up to you guys and let it rip. I wanted to share that with you. I thought that was kind of a interesting narrative to the first part, to gain experience with a lot of people, and it'll pay dividends for us. Not all the snaps are good, but there's some on-the-job training that goes along with that, and I certainly hope that the players feel how much we believe in them, and we wouldn't put them in. I told them that if we didn't have belief in you.
In using this many players this early, have you actually pared back on the number of packages you would have used at this stage, or have you just...
I don't think so. Because of necessity, we maybe added some that I wouldn't have previously. And so, with Micah, playing in a couple spots, Chauncey Golden's been somebody who's been versatile. J.K. Kirsch, we've asked to do a lot so far, certainly over the last 3 ball games. And I thought he has really responded. His play style, his attitude, his toughness, it just jumps out at you. Going in, I think we all probably recognize he's got length, the guard tight ends, but he does a lot more than that, for our team. His style, his tackling. So I wouldn't say we've pared back. There might be as many or more packages, but maybe not as many things in those packages, if that makes sense.
Remarkable what Ghost was able to do. He had no training camp, no preseason, and just come out here and just make an impact so quickly.
Yeah, I've been impressed by Chauncey. I have been, honestly, all the way back from the spring. So for him being injured, the day of training camp, it was like, like here was somebody that we were just say, this guy's going to throw a hell of a camp. But to his credit, he wasn't anybody that ever backed off the learning, the understanding, because he didn't really get all the way going until the regular season started. Then he had some practice time with us for about 2 weeks. And so the last 2 weeks, we knew he was ready, probably close to who we played before Philly, the Charger week. And nope, not yet. Still keep going, just to kind of get into the football, speed and conditioning. And so it was the right call to do that. But over the last couple of weeks, I feel him growing. I feel Adigizua growing as they're gaining experience. I told Osa that today. Both of those two are really smart players, and they're improving fast.
What's your message to a guy like Trayvon Diggs? Obviously, his production's been off the charts, and then he has a game like that. Do you not say anything to him, or do you point out things that he could have done better?
Yeah, I think you always want to do that. First thing I'd say is keep pedaling downhill, man. Keep attacking. And after that, like all things, that's what today is about, getting to the truth of the performance, things that we did well, things that we need to work on. And so that's always the case on this day. But he's really just in I just want him to stay in this pocket of where he's at. He stays present, he stays focused, and he doesn't look past, anything other than just nailing that day and that week. And so I've been impressed by that so far. But, for him, just keep pedaling hard downhill, man, more cowbell.
Randy talked Friday about how even though he understands there's different ways to disrupt a game.
Can you say the first person again?
Randy Gregory
yes.
talked Friday about how even though he knows there's different ways to disrupt a game, not getting the sacks and stuff was still disappointing. On a day like yesterday, how much does it speak to what Randy's doing, but also how much your other defensive linemen are doing that they're commanding the attention?
Yeah, I was certainly I was proud of him because I knew in the previous game he really played hard, and I thought some of the other guys he was close, he was getting there. I don't know how many holding penalties he had, but there was a few. Was it 3? And so when those happen, you know somebody's being relentless. And so the good message that came out of it is when you're there, but you're not quite there, you could have an easy tendency to try to make things up, to say, I'm this close, I'll just do something different, I'll jump out of my gap. And he had none of that and just stayed directly with it. And it's one thing to say it, hey man, stay in the process where you're at, you're doing the right things, this is going to come. And so for that to happen with him not having to stay out of, like trying to do something that he shouldn't, I thought that was the right thing for him, and I was glad he was rewarded for that.
You worked out Gregory at Nebraska back in 2015.
I did.
During the pre-draft process. You've obviously followed his collegiate career. What's something that you've learned about him that maybe you didn't know before, and where have you seen him develop?
That's an awesome one. I would say I wouldn't have known, this is a really sharp guy and has a very good self-awareness of, where he's at, the player he's playing against. And, for instance, he played against, a former teammate yesterday, so he wanted this. He had good recall of things. Way back, years ago when I did work him out, I remembered, just the athleticism and all that. What I, come to find out here is how hard he works. And that part of practice, the way that he goes, it pays forward into the game. And one of the sayings you may hear say is that you got to, fight like you train, and he goes hard. And having a guy like Tyron to go up against on a daily basis, I just couldn't think of two guys sharpening one another better than those two.
You mentioned red zone earlier. Between your performance there and maybe giving up more big plays than you want, where is kind of the focus on where you need to improve next?
Each week there's, always something that you want to tweak to go. When there's ones that are correctable, obviously you start right from there to say, this is, part of the package. Can we play this technique differently? And also give credit to Carolina, on some of the plays and, unscouted looks that we've seen. But there's always some things that we're looking to, but we never go far away from our play style, our fundamentals, our tackling, our speed that we want to play with. So that's, to me, at the top of the pile. If your effort's right, you have a good chance to now make the small adjustments that you need. If you don't have that part right, you hold to here to come back, so our effort and our straining, that part feels good. So as I'm heading into this week, we haven't even got into the Giants yet. Today I try to do as much after action and, review as we can of the last opponent before I head into the next one. So I'll have more on that. Well, I don't talk to you the rest of the week, but I'll have more on that to myself later in the week.
With Diggs, and at some point you'd think quarterbacks will stop going his way as much, maybe because he's had this production. Is that one of the advantages of having him follow, quote, their top receivers, because they can't necessarily do that?
I haven't done this enough where one person followed enough, but that's certainly one, because if you have your top player, you're certainly going to him anyway. So I would say that is probably more accurate than not, because I would think you're going to go to your guy if you're going to match. And we won't match all the time, but he has certainly risen to the challenge when we needed him to. So I don't know as far as the game plan for this week goes yet, matching or not, but it's certainly something that is not easy to do outside, inside, left side, right side. And so it takes a lot of work, takes a lot of preparation, but not just for him, but the other people around him have to do it too. You probably saw Jordan Lewis play well outside, and you've mostly seen him as a slot player, during the last, 2 months. And so that said, him playing outside, some of the techniques are different outside too. So it's not just one player that gets affected, it's a number of them, and I'm certainly pleased with the guys.
Does he go to you and say, Coach, I want this guy this week?
Not quite like that, but he is definitely down for the challenge. I would say that. So he's always up for, I would say anything competitive he's up for. Him and Parsons, I would say, are, all you got to do is throw a competition out and they'd be ready to go for it, whatever it might be.
How often do you welcome that input? Because, you have an idea of what you're doing, and you want players to be aggressive and say, hey,
Right.
I can do this, or put this in the plan this week. Do you interact much like that with them, or do you want to give players that sort of latitude?
Well, I think as you're going, you start to build trust with somebody. And early, you might, I can guard any. Okay, well, let's just see how it goes. And so for a guy like him who's earned our respect and our trust, you would certainly say, okay, this is a matchup we want to do, and here's why. And for the most part, when you challenge, and give the reasons why you could do it, and this is the best thing for us as a team, then, the better the player, the more they're up for that usually.
What did you like and didn't like when you had Micah and Leighton out there together?
What did I like and what did I didn't like? Well, I certainly liked, like I said, our communication at linebacker, I thought, improved this week, not just with Leighton or Micah, but Jalen as well. And we really made a big emphasis on that, and I thought there were dividends paid because of that. Certainly the blitz factor of Micah, that was part of, some of his powers we want to do. And so having him in there to do that, that's a big deal, whether he's in with Jalen or with Leighton. Leighton's just such a consistent player for us. He's rarely out of position. He's an excellent communicator. He's a good tackler. You just feel his size and length when he's in there. So I was pleased with Leighton in this game.
You are in the booth during games for a reason. It seems to be working just fine for you. But are there times when you're staring down, like a third quarter, there's that energy and there's multiple takeaways and all that, that you can't help but wish that you were down there part of you?
There's no doubt I wish I was, yeah, all the time. I definitely missed that part of it, but I guess knowing your own self too, to say this is where I function best. You have all the information, you can see everything down on the field. I'd done it some as a head coach. My previous time as a defense coordinator, I was in the press box in Seattle, and I called some of the games in Atlanta on the field, and it's much more difficult for me. Hey, he's holding, then you're on to the next call, and somebody's telling you, hey, put me in, and you're like, who the hell are you? So you, in the press box, you get very little of that. And so that part of it is good. I see the personnel go in. I know it's 12. And so there's on the field defensively, it's much more challenging for me. And so I know lots of people do it different ways, but I think like in anything, you find out how you do it best. Where do you go to right? That's kind of the same thing. Would you be good in a crowd, or would you need space to do it? And so for me, up on the press box, seeing everything, laying out your game plan of how you want to do it's the best process for me. I definitely miss the energy and the connection on the field, but like anything else, my best way to help the defense is to do it from the press box.
On that note of knowing yourself best and what works for you, when did you start running the steps before games? How long have you been doing that, and why do we do it?
So I would say my first ever preseason game, I was with the San Francisco 49ers with Jim Mora, and he said, come on, we're going running. And he about kicked my ass. And so I think we were at San Diego. You're allowed to say San Diego when you were in San Diego, right? So, okay, thank you. So that's where it was. And so I started with them and did it with him through years. And so sometimes just to, get a workout in, before the game is good, get your brain turned on and get ready to go. So it's been a fun thing through the years.
What did you say to DeMonte Casey about the penalty? Was there much that he could have done differently?
I don't think so, and it's you guys know I've known Case for a long time, and it's something that he's really working hard at. One, for the safety of the game, and for his safety too, where I thought in that particular tackle, I thought he really did a good job of using his shoulder. And so we talk about strike zones that we want to go to, which is kind of like in baseball, from the shoulders, to the top of the knees, and we're a shoulder tackling team. And so I thought on that tackle, it was a good hard hit, but he did not lead with the head. And so I said, hey man, you're making progress in the right spot here, is what I told him. I said, it's something that he's actually been working at really hard for a long time. And so to see that happen, I was disappointed that the flag came. I've not heard back from the league as far as that they felt like it was an accurate call. But for him, I thought it was a step in the right direction for sure.
Did you give him that feedback during the game, over the phone, or after?
Post game, I told him in the locker room.
Whether he's fine or not, we'll find out. It seemed like a clean hit, but do you ever look at guys and say, I don't want you to become leery of making that kind of play again, because you did everything right, but 25,000, 20,000, 17, whatever it is.
Yes, I know that goes, with the territory of our, profession, but I always want to say, I think you did the technique right. And that doesn't always mean it's going to get officiated in the same way or viewed by someone else. But for that particular player, I thought it was a big step in the right direction because he had somebody that really had lowered his head. Often I was concerned about him. I said, hey, man, we need you. And he's worked hard on it. And so to have that happen and then not get penalized for something that I thought was a good hit, but I'm sure we'll get some feedback from the league on that.
One of the first questions we asked you way back in probably April was about leadership on this defense. Where does it exist? And it was kind of a wait and see. Now that you're a quarter of the way into the season and through camp and all that, how do you evaluate the landscape of leadership of your defense?
I'm going to go back to what I thought might happen then, and I think hopefully that'll be the case moving forward. I think there's a number of different guys who are leading in their own way. We did an exercise a few weeks ago about roles, and what you have. And so you write your name at the top of the paper about what you think your role is for the team, and then you pass it to the right. And by the time it gets all the way back to you again, this is what everybody else needs from you. And so a lot of that might have came, we need this from you, we need this from you, their own teammates. And none of them had the same exact list. And so on this team, on this defense, I feel guys are getting into roles now of who needs this energy, who needs this toughness, who needs these kind of roles. And so I feel like the leadership comes from the group as opposed to one, which isn't the worst thing, where it's not just all on one person's shoulders, on one voice only. And so there'll be many guys that will take the lead, and when in charge, be in charge. So if you feel like it's your time to lead, do it, and they know that.
Is there a player that Diggs reminds you of with his ball skills where he's taking the ball away?
Man, I hope we're having this conversation that people are asking that years from now and say, he reminds me of Trayvon Diggs, because he is a very unique player with the length of his arms and his ball skills. So I'll leave that to you guys, but he is off to a fantastic start. I've certainly had players in my past that had his kind of length and ball skills, but honestly, I love them both. So I don't want to compare one to the other, if that makes sense. He just came back in the league. He just came back in the league. I didn't compare. I didn't bring any names up.
Going back to the exercises that you did with the players, what was their reaction when they heard in that kind of way what their teammates wanted from them in the roles? I imagine it could be pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, because I think we typed them all up so everybody would have their own personal one to say, not only, this is what you think you need, but this is what everyone else needs from you. And I think that's a powerful statement when your peers are telling you, hey, man, I need this from you. And we don't always say that to one another. And so to have a list to say, all right, I'm counted on for this specific role, that's a big deal. All right, you guys have a good one.
More cowbell was the best one.
That's all right. Good one, dude. More cowbell. Good one.
How you doing?
Good.
Can you just talk about what you felt your level of execution over the course of the game was yesterday offensively, and have you even built from the opener to this point?
It's a good game. I thought we maybe a different path. Didn't start as fast as maybe we had anticipated and hoped, but I thought the adjustments throughout the game were really, really good. Obviously, we found a way to run the ball well, and certainly the third quarter had a big impact on that game.
Dak said that there were some certain adjustments that you and he talked about at halftime that led to some of those third quarter touchdowns. What's an example of that, and how key was that?
Just the Amari touchdown. I would start with that one. Just we ran a route similar to that, the quick out route, and felt like there was an opportunity potentially for a double move there down the line, and we got into the right situation, allowed us to call that, and then the move by Said. That play was we've ran a similar play where we kind of throw a outlet to our tight end rather quickly, and we kind of made a little bluff, a little double move off of that, and it opened up.
There have been times when we've talked about halftime adjustments through the years that people have said you can't actually have that much time to adjust at halftime. It goes quickly in the NFL. Is this fairly common, or is it hard to actually make those meaningful adjustments at halftime?
Amari's touchdown's a play. We ran against the Chargers. You can tell Dak he probably should have thrown a touchdown to Amari. It's the exact same play. We've repped it a million times. It's a core play. Just kind of re-emphasized it at halftime. We have an opportunity to go to this, and then the one said we've carried for really since week one, and had we been put in the right situation, we would have called it, and just happened to be this game.
How many plays do you take to a game?
I would say it varies. We try and keep it fairly consistent. I don't think we keep it like narrowed down to a specific number, but each window, each certain area of the field, whether it be a third down, red zone, we kind of try and keep a certain number in that situation. And so, within that, you got to have variables. Sometimes you're going to have carryover from a week that you feel really good that, hey, we've repped all these plays. We can just carry them right into the next week and keep moving along and maybe throw one more wrinkle. Sometimes you get flushed out in a situation where maybe it's a red zone situation, maybe it's a third down situation. We were in the situation a lot. We carried 7 or 8 plays. We carried, we're going to end up running 7 of them. We may need to do some work in this particular area just to make sure we're kind of re-energized and kind of have our new flavor in that particular area.
The time you guys ran that same play concept against the Chargers, if I'm remembering it correctly, he found Blake over the middle for 20.
Yes.
And so that's a pretty good result. But you did have that pump fake with Amari on the left alley. So how do you evaluate that when it's a chunk for you guys, but it's not the chunk that it could have been?
Exactly. It was an awesome play just because, Dak threw it and you can kind of see his body language from behind. He knew he had Amari, but really there's just this big opening right in the middle of the field and Blake's staring at him right there. And sometimes as a quarterback, you're going there, but just the attraction of someone just staring right at you wide open kind of overrides it. And he naturally threw it to Blake as he's looking, there's the big play. But that's what happens sometimes. It happens throughout a game. And, fortunately for us, we'll find another way to get to it down the line, and just so happened this week was that.
What did it say about Amari? One, that he continued that game, but then 2, that he knows his body well enough to be able to push it physically so that he's still effective, but not, overextending his hamstring.
Amari's in an awesome place. He's done a great job. I understand, he's dealing with circumstances, sometimes an injury thing like a lot of guys deal with. But for him to continue to be available, do everything he can throughout the week, put himself in a position to play in that game, deal with maybe some stuff throughout the game, and keep becoming available. And you can see him on the sideline. He's constantly kind of working through it, kind of trying to stay ready, ready to go. And I think he kind of found his place and was able to still contribute, and that was awesome.
Probably told us after the opener you thought the offense would balance out. Has the pendulum swung to the run game even more than you thought it would?
Similar to the last couple games, I think this game you go into it with a fairly balanced approach, understand if we got to swing one way or the other, we'll swing there. And obviously, based off Carolina, the first few games, we really probably didn't have the greatest pulse on where we wanted to take this game just because of the circumstance of their first 3 games. And so as we went in that game, we certainly found a groove running the football, found some things that we liked, and were able to attack them that way.
Understanding there's an evolution in this offense because the core's been here for a while and you've been here for a while. But are you able to adapt more quickly in games than you were maybe the first few years here when you're in this position, just because of the style and the willingness to kind of adapt versus an imposure, let's run these principles and keep doing it, and it's a bit of a difference there, a growth there.
I would say for myself, obviously year 3, just being able to go through the process of games, I think I feel much more comfortable making those adjustments throughout the game. And I think for us, especially most importantly as a staff, second year as a staff together, all the same group, we're able to communicate so much quicker and see the things that we need to potentially make adjustments to. And so I think we're in a really, really good place. And certainly as a team, we very much embrace it, that there's going to be adjustments. Adjustment football is part of the process. And you're going to have to, we're not going to reinvent things at halftime. We're going to maybe reestablish something that maybe it wasn't a part of the initial game plan. Go, hey, we're going to make this little adjustment here and there. Halftime for 12 minutes? I don't even know. 12 minutes. I mean, there's not a whole lot of talking that's going to go on there. But I feel like we've continued to embrace it, and I think that's the good thing. Our guys come back. We get feedback throughout the game, coaches and players together, and we're able to make those adjustments whenever we feel necessary.
How often have you guys run that, the last play that clinched the game, the pitch from Zeke, and how often do you need to be comfortable to see the pitch is going to be there all the time before you will have that call?
Carried it since week 1, just situational play. We ran a similar play at Minnesota last year with Zeke on a 2-point play at Minnesota with he ended up pitching at the CD, and so it's a play we were comfortable with, very comfortable with. Those guys repped it a bunch of times, felt very comfortable with the circumstance that presented itself. They loaded up the box and felt like, hey, there's going to be some tough challenges inside there to get the yard. They're going to commit to it. And so if we have an open edge over there, we'll take our opportunity right there, and we feel very comfortable with putting the ball in Zeke and Tony's hands. Those guys will make great decisions and protect the ball.
Guys lobby for a play like that because they see the success in practice and they say, Coach, we should do it right. How do you manage that to say, we'll do it or not right now?
Throughout a game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say our guys understand that the opportunities will eventually come, and sometimes there's patience element to it. And usually, if we're patient enough, we find the right time and the right circumstance, and right there. And then, I think there's a trust factor to that. There's certainly an opportunity for different plays, and different guys are going to have different options. There's other guys that got stuff that probably sit on the call sheet. There's probably stuff on our call sheet right now that'll sit there till Thanksgiving in December that, hopefully there comes the right time and place for it. And I think guys understand that that's part of the process.
Where has Cedric made his greatest strides, Kellen?
Cedric is just such a smart player. He doesn't need the reps, which is to say that being a third, fourth receiver, a lot of times those starters are going to get a ton of reps. They need all the reps they can get. They're going through that process. So as a third, fourth, fifth receiver on a roster, you're going to be sometimes doing scout team. You're going to be pulled here and there. When a guy needs a play off, you need to be able to play. And so his versatility to play all three positions is huge. And then, like we said, when a guy goes down like Michael, he just hops right in, plays wherever we need to. And his understanding and feel for the game, I think, is at an extremely high level for a receiver. His feel for the game, understanding where to find the openings, and he's a really, really smart football player.
Kellen, Jack talked a lot about training his mind when he wasn't able to train his body over the last year. How have you seen his mental game or mental toughness evolve, and how's it different this year than last year?
His mental toughness is second to none. I think we all are aware of how impressive a guy he is in that regard. I think just how fast he processes football right now, I think is obviously at a really, really high level. His ability to quickly see the adjustments that need to be made, see the adjustments within a drive. Maybe a defense gives him a different look, different coverage, and it doesn't take until to get to the other sideline, to the sideline to have those conversations. He knows how to quickly adapt and adjust, and you can just see how quickly the ball's coming out of his hand. He knows where he wants to get the ball to, and he goes and executes quickly and fast and confidently.
When your guys' defense is on the field, what are you looking at? Are you looking at what you guys just got done doing, or are you already kind of on to whatever the next drive is and what you think is going to work there?
Combination of both. We review the previous drive. Obviously, we want to evaluate that, but then quickly we got to move on and, okay, here's our next step. Here's our next couple runs. Here's our next couple passes. If we get into our next third down, this is probably the anticipated call. And so we're constantly having those conversations so that when we do get on the field, guys aren't really surprised by what we're calling. We've already had these conversations right before we went out on the field. We're not calling some random play off the call sheet that no one's talked about since Wednesday. Occasionally it may happen here and there based off of circumstance, but for the most part, we're talking through this whole game.
You guys are doing a couple of different things to have Connor McGovern more involved, fullback, these past 2 games being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
First, what's that personnel grouping called when he's the fullback?
We just say MAC. So, MAC, yeah. That's the MAC show. So, yep, Mac goes in there and he handles everything. It's been awesome. He's a guy that has done some great stuff for us. Obviously, Zach, when Zach gets an opportunity to go in, we should probably play Zach at right guard, and we got to find him an opportunity to play as well, and because he's been doing a great job.
Jack was saying that back his rookie year when y'all were both players, you guys would draw up plays on note cards and try and find ways to get them to Linehan, was the way he put it. What do you remember about that time? Did you keep those note cards, and can you remember any of the plays on them? Have you called any since?
I would not remember what was on any note cards probably, but no, Scott was awesome. It was tons of fun. That first year, really, just because of the circumstances, I was on IR. So luckily, Jason, Scott, they kind of let me hang around and, be in the room. It was, Tony, Dak, Sanchez, Mark. We had a ton of fun that year. We really enjoyed it. And so it was an opportunity for me to kind of be on the other side of it for the first time ever, being on IR, because I wasn't going to be able to play. I was doing all the rehab, but kind of gave me, Scott was awesome to give me a chance to stay around it, kind of see it from the other lens, so to speak, on the coaching side. And I think it really helped me, with where I'm at now, just to be able to be prepared for that. And hey, throw some ideas out, give some suggestions here and there, and talk through it. And it was a lot of fun.
What is your offense? I mean, how much of what you guys are doing, what you did with Jason and Linehan, and how much is what Mike has brought, and what is your influence?
That's a great question, and I'd probably not have a great percentage answer for you. I think certainly the foundation and everything has been here, just because when Dak showed up in 16, I think we had a great foundation. We're playing really good football, and each and every year, bits and pieces come along. Scott throws his influence into it, and then I kind of threw maybe a little bit of flavor to it, and then Mike came in, and all our other position coaches, and so each and every year it's kind of evolving and piecing together, and so I think as we go, we're just constantly. I don't think we ever set it in stone. It's never. This is exactly what we're going to be. Our ability to adapt and adjust, and whoever our personnel is, we suit it best for them and go play ball.
But the foundation is what you guys said from 26. I guess there was a base foundation. That was it.
Yeah, I think that's a starting point. Some of the language has changed over time. You'd probably laugh, probably if people who are maybe Tony or Whit came in, sometimes half the language, they'd be like, okay, I get that now. Whoa, where'd that word come from? And there'd probably be a little bit of 50-50 there, a little bit with some of the language, but we're constantly evolving it, constantly piecing it together. And so, it's kind of a constant evolution.
We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary when Dak got hurt. What was it like on the sidelines when he went down? And when you realize it's serious, how do you compartmentalize, there's still a game to call, even though the guy I've worked with so much has just suffered this kind of injury?
Yeah, I think it was really tough for everyone to see him deal with that and understand the circumstance that it was probably going to create for us. His response, obviously, really moving forward past that day was probably one of the biggest things for our team, to see him respond in such a positive and uplifting way. But it was hard for everyone on game day, and obviously we were able to get past it. Andy did a really good job in that particular game, just being able to respond. Zeke had the run, Michael had the big block. It still stands in everyone's head. That big run on the right side, that was a big moment for our team, just to see that response and how hard Zeke ran, and he knew there was a purpose to it. And for Andy then to come back and make the couple big plays in the 2-minute drive, it was a very up and down emotional game just from that regard, because you won a game, but you still, in the back of your mind, you knew what Dak would be dealing with and those circumstances. And so it was a very interesting game, to say the least.
When he got hurt, obviously on the sidelines, you got to get things going with Andy, but did you think about, he had a similar injury, when he was in camp? Did you think about that in the brief moments that things were going on?
To be honest, I don't think I thought a whole lot about my experience at the moment. We understood, once you kind of realized the ramifications it was probably going to be, this wasn't a sprained ankle in any way. This was the real deal. There was going to be some challenges moving forward, but we quickly had to kind of get going, get Andy ready to rock and roll, and I think our team responded as well as they could under those circumstances at that time.
How much do you watch last year's game leading into this week's game, and when the play comes up, do you just skip it?
Anytime you got common opponents, you have a division team, you're going to watch those games. They're going to watch those games. We're all going to watch them and study them and evaluate them. Sometimes you skip past the very, very end of that run. Certainly, we've seen it a few times, and that's all we probably need to see of it.
The offense has averaged over 200 yards over the last 3 games. How much of a testament is that to the job of the offensive line and creating holes and staying on blocks longer to face up the run game?
The offensive line is playing phenomenal. It's so fun to watch. Zach popping back in there week 2, getting back into this thing, and where they have taken it to establish the line of scrimmage and take control of that thing. It's been a ton of fun, and it's ton of fun to see them come off the field fired up, excited, keep running the rock, keep grinding these guys. It's a big testament to how hard those guys have battled and the communication, and that's the biggest thing I think is, we've dealt with a lot of injuries and different circumstances, and those guys being able to play together and create some continuity and have a great feel for it, they're coming off the ball really, really hard.
When you watch tape from last year of Steele, is the biggest difference just the strength when you look at him this year compared to what you got from him last year? Or
I would say Terrence, just his comfort level and his ability to get off the ball and play confidently. When you're a rookie, dealing with those circumstances, playing a ton of games, those guys deal with a lot of stuff at the line of scrimmage, a lot of movement, a lot of adjustments, all the things that go into playing offense line. It's not just, I'm blocking this individual in front of me 70 times. There's a lot other things that go with it. And so when you're able to kind of finally get to that step where, okay, I understand my job responsibility, I understand what the expectation is, now I can truly just react and play ball, I think he's playing really, really well.
You guys have gotten off to this 3-1 start despite having...
Sorry, what was that?
You guys have gotten off to this 3-1 start, 31, 32 points per game, despite Michael Gallup being out, despite Lyle Collins being out. What have you noticed, and I don't mean to ask you to speak ill about the previous regime, but what have you just noticed about, under Mike McCarthy, the way that you guys have figured out ways to overcome adversity, especially early on this season, to get off to this good start, offensively and defensively?
I would just say with regards to this year, I think our guys have embraced this. Whoever gets the opportunities, whoever's ready to go. And there's an unselfishness element to this team that's awesome. That CD has 2 catches this week, and who knows what he has next week. And he's gonna have a big game coming up, and maybe we don't run it as many times. We throw it a bunch, and if LC can't go, Terrence, you're hopping right back in there and you're ready to rock and roll. And Mac, you play right guard, and you play an awesome game at Tampa, and now you're going to have to become a backup again. But we're going to find a way, and we're going to get you in at fullback. And so I think our guys really embrace this opportunity that whoever's out on the field, let's go for it. We'll find everyone opportunities. We'll find everyone roles to be a part of this thing. And as the games go on, there's going to be bumpy moments. Carolina's a good football team. They're going to have success. They're going to get you a few times in the second quarter and just keep going, and we'll find our way.
Does that give you, as an offensive coordinator, even more excitement at the idea of, hey, eventually we're going to have LC back, eventually we're going to have Gallup back, and now all of a sudden it opens up even more?
Certainly, anytime you get guys of their level back, it's going to be awesome. We're going to be really excited when Michael and LC get an opportunity to be a part of this, and that's how this game goes. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be maybe more unfortunate things that we'll have to deal with throughout a season. That's what the NFL is about, and guys just have to keep plowing away and keep responding the right way.
You might say this every week, but was that Zach's best game of the year?
Yeah.
Highest grade?
Yeah, I think he played phenomenal. I don't know what Madden's 99s are, but Zach should probably be sitting in there. And the guy's playing as good as anyone in the National Football League. He plays right guard. I know it's not the sexiest, coolest position in the world, but he's amazing.
How much, you guys are playing a high rate of 12 personnel, how much of that is a response to losing Michael earlier in the year, or do you think this is just the week-to-week game plan based being that it would have been otherwise?
I would say 12 personnel is based off the circumstance of the game and the game plan. We would have no problem playing 11 personnel and throwing set out there and playing ball on 11 personnel. I think based off the circumstance, we felt like we had some opportunities in 12 personnel, and Blake and Dalton and even Sprinkle and Mac in there a few times, getting those guys in there, we feel very comfortable and felt like those gave us a great opportunity in these last few games.
On Jarwin's touchdown, great route, great throw, but can you talk about the importance of Noah Brown? What he does to open that up?
That's the most important aspect of this thing. He gets the assist. I know we don't keep assists in the NFL like the NBA does, but if you gave assist, Noah Brown gets a big-time assist there because he runs the route. He wins at the line of scrimmage just to get moving, and he really creates kind of a wall of traffic there and gives really Blake a two-way go. He's got the ability to break in or out based off the defender's leverage, and the guy had to play over the top because Noah's running. The DB's got to make a decision as soon as the guy goes out. Blake goes in, and there's your touchdown.
How much of that is the foundation of play design? It seems like there have been, throughout the season, and I realize it's around the league, but you can point to examples where Amari is tracking the safety and that opens things up for Dalton or whatever it may be. How much of that is the foundation of what you try to do as a coordinator?
I think we're continuing to try and emphasize that it really takes all 11. In the run game, it takes all 11. It takes the receivers going out and digging out those safeties in the run game, Dak booting to hold the backside defensive end. It takes all 11 there. In the passing game, it takes all 11. Everyone running their routes, opening it up, understand that there's a method to it, that if you're running a certain route, hey, you may not be the primary here, but you're taking someone with you, and you're going to open it up potentially for someone else. So I think our guys have a constant understanding and confidence that, hey, I may not get the ball here, but Blake's going to get the ball, and eventually Blake's going to do something for me to help me get the ball. And so it's been a lot of fun.
What level is Kyron playing for you guys at left tackle?
He's playing phenomenal. He's there's a great clip if you want to watch on the little scramble pass to Dalton. If you want to watch him at left tackle right there, I'd recommend watching that clip. He is playing phenomenal football right now, and to see him out there, he really takes a hold of that left side.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Like hot pigs, feel me like hot pigs. Tell your peoples. Tell your peoples. Tell your peoples. You got peoples?
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi, how you doing?
All right. How you doing?
Generally don't start and ask you about the punter much, but can you talk about Anger a little bit, just what level he's playing for you right now and how he's doing?
Yeah, Anger's doing a great job. I think these last two games especially, he's really locked in on the open field punting. And, 2 games ago we called it alley-oop balls. He's got to throw the hang time, distance, and direction out there to the gunners. And we try to match that. So right when the returner catches it, we got one of the gunners right up in the returner's face. And so we kind of started with that philosophy. And there's a few things we got to work on with him. Our going in balls, which is the rugby kicks. We got some work on. So to see him kind of get into a groove is great. Hopefully he can stay in it. But there's a couple of things that we identified that he needs to improve on, and we'll work on it this week. It'll be fun.
Is it more like you want to be inside the 10, not at the 10? Like, is that kind of what it is, or just the mechanics of the kick itself?
Yeah, it's the direction, the distance of it, and the direction of it. We hit 2 this past game where it was a little bit off directionally, and I think we could, back them up 3 or 4 more yards on their drive start. I know it's little things, 3 or 4 yards. What is that? Well, it's almost half a first down. So just little things like that. How can we move them back a couple more yards or get it more outside the numbers than in the alley? So little things that pros can do.
Is that what you're constantly looking for, just the percentages? Because like you say, 2 to 3 yards a punt with 4 a game makes a difference in the field position.
Yeah, that's 1 first down. Yeah, 2 to 3 yards a punt, 4 times a game is a first down. So yeah, it's special teams. That's the little things. We talked about that in our meeting. We didn't have a ton of action this past game, but when you look at the coach's film of it, there's actually a ton of little things that we can tighten up and do a little bit better to make or back them up 3 or 4 more yards, or if we get a chance to return some footballs, give our offense 3 or 4 more yards. And those are little things, but with our kicker's leg, 3 or 4 more yards might mean the difference between having to punt it and giving a shot at a field goal. So yeah, we're looking for any little edges we can get.
Is it good to get back to a quote-unquote normal week after what you guys been through for the last 4 weeks of the season?
I don't know. I'll tell you at the end of this week, I've kind of enjoyed the 12-day week, the 10-day week, the 8-day week, the 6-day week. Now we're on a 7, so we'll see how that goes. But I've enjoyed kind of the extra days, the short weeks, and then the normal week is, we're used to it last season, but we haven't had it this year. So this is kind of uncommon ground for us, 7-day week.
What did Malik Turner give you yesterday, and what does he provide for you when he's active?
Yeah, good call. Malik was active for the first time yesterday, and he gives just kind of a gritty, grimy, tough wide receiver, special teams guy. His blocking is outstanding. He's tough. He's kind of that prototype special teams player from a wide receiver position, really kind of like Noah is, just to get in there inside and, put his hands on linebackers and running backs. And there isn't any really matchup that's too much of a disadvantage for him. So he's a good mindset guy to have on the field, and also a versatile player that can do a lot of things for us.
When you're organizing the turnover takeaway circuit in practice regularly, do you make any tweaks to keep it fresh or any sort of way empathize for certain teams with the opponent, or is it just important to be uniform throughout the season?
Yeah, good call. So every Wednesday and Thursday we have a 6-minute team fundamental period, and Coach has me come up with 3 drills per day, and we go 2 minutes per station, and it's different every day. We look at what's kind of been a trend around the league when it comes to ball security or ball takeaways, or what's something that we need to work on ball security or takeaway wise, and we just come up with 3 drills on Wednesday and 3 drills on Thursday and incorporate that into our ball security, ball takeaway, team fundamental 6-minute period. And it usually has to do with what happened the previous week around the league, or for us that, we'll work on. Hey, this is what these couple of teams and these players did a great job of, to see if we can do that to get the ball out. This week we'll tighten up some ball security things, and it's fun to put that together for those 6 minutes on Wednesday and Thursday.
It's a little nerve that you've been telling Trayvon Diggs that's got him doing what he's doing.
Yeah, I haven't told him too much. We do a lot of security and takeaway drills. Probably once every 2 days we'll do some kind of ball out of the sky drill, but most of it's ball security, ball takeaway. But I have nothing to do with his ability to catch the football like he's been. He's on a tear. It's just a lot of fun to watch.
Because you have that role with ball security. When Dalton has a drive like he had yesterday with the 3 loose ball carriages, how much are you studying that film to do something about it in practice? And did it seem like the same issues or something different?
Yeah, it's a good call. So I didn't talk to him during the game. He's so conscientious that he really knew. He just got to tighten it up. But when you look at the TV copies, which I do a lot of, you could really get the broadcast shot where it zooms in on it. And so, myself and the offensive staff and his position coach will talk to him, but I'll also get a chance to talk to him on, what to do with that second hand cover when you're in a population tackle mode. When you're spinning or going to the ground, how do you cover it with one hand as you brace for impact with the second? So all those things we talk about on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and our team fundamental periods, and the guys have been so receptive to it. It's great, and hopefully it helps us the rest of the season. But we've gotten some really good education from watching some around the league tape, and then we're trying to educate the guys on some new ball security tactics, some new ball extraction tactics. So it's a lot of fun to kind of hopefully be on the cutting edge of helping our guys out, and he really is so conscientious of it. That it'll be a fun discussion with him just on a couple of things just to tighten up.
When a guy has a few of those like that instead of just one in a game, does it feel more fluky, or does it feel more like maybe the Panthers saw something on film they were trying to take advantage of?
Yeah, I think maybe you almost become too conscious of it. And Schultze's been such a great tackle breaker that maybe he got into a little bit more of, I got to, brace for population tacklers and not think about still, being an aggressive runner. It's interesting. Every guy's a little bit different with the mental part of it too. You don't want to get in their head too much where they're so worried about it that they forget to be runners and tackle breakers, but it's also part of the game to make sure that hold on to our lifeline.
When you play against a team that's head coach has a special teams background like this week, do you kind of expect just about anything from them and what they can possibly do, or are they more uniform in how they are because of your background?
Yeah, no, with the head coach's background as a special teams coach, they got a little bit more. You could dive back into even some of the New England stuff. So they got some really good personnel on their special teams, in the core part of it. And then we played them twice last year, and they have some good stuff, and we do too. So it'll be a great contest, I think, of some special teams, probably just fundamental, basic stuff, just so you can collide and combat, tackle and block better.
All right, thanks.
All right. Thanks, you guys.